You ever wonder why people are the way that they are? You ever wonder why people think the way that they think? Well, here's the answer to your questions. This is the Sit Down.
Yo, welcome to the Sit Down. I got my special guest, Mr. Greer, Power 281 in the building. So man, let's just kick it off. Explain to us what's going on with Power 281, how we get started, and what's your role, man?
So I started Power Hits 281 back in like 2009. Woke up in the middle of the night because by this time I had an interview at a radio station here that's no longer here, but it was Hot 971. Got hired, went through the whole process. Next day, told me to come down and give me my paperwork, blah, blah, blah. Then they changed the format. And then at that point, it was no longer hip-hop. It went to country legends. So I was so distraught, and I was like, damn, I'm never going to get that break in radio. And went home. Probably a week later, I woke up in the middle of the night. I said, I'm going to start my own shit. So I just woke up, started. I said, I'm going to start my own shit. And that's how the whole idea of Power Hits 281 got created. And then from there, it's been going strong since, man. Actually, after Thanksgiving, it'll be, 11 years? Yeah, 11 years of streaming.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So, and it pretty much focus on just artists here locally that didn't have a real platform, because I know how the terrestrial radio is, and the whole issue with 979, how they kind of just have a hard time really giving indie artists a chance to come on and get airplay. So I focused on that, and that became my mantra for the station, and it just took off from there. And right now, it kind of spawned to some other areas of things I guess we probably talk about a little later, but that's basically how everything kind of got started with it.
Okay. I guess when listeners tune in, what kind of stuff can they hear? Is it just, I know you just highlighted, how you give good new artists a showcase platform,
right?
Which is great, because that's how you network,
right?
But what other type of content can they expect to hear when they tune in?
They basically hear the same thing as everybody else play. You know what I'm saying? The regular mainstream radio, but the percentage-wise is a little bit different, right? I try to focus on it's more or less like 70-30. So I try to do it where it's 70% indie and 30% commercial, and then some months I'll switch it to where it's 70% commercial and then 30%.
How do you determine that? Is it like a way you can see what people like more, or can you tell who's tuning in?
Yeah, you can tell who's tuning in. You can tell who where they're listening from, what devices that they're using to listen to the station as well.
Nice.
But yeah, so like I said, it's just I try to make sure I keep a regular balance. So now in the mornings I have Cheryl Underwood. She does my morning shows for me Monday through Friday. So she does her morning shows from 8 to 12. And then I have a popular DJ that was here before he moved to LA, and then who's now in Phoenix, which is Crisco Kid. He does a show for me on Saturdays. So I have a couple of podcasts that get rebroadcasted as well. So like I said, it's a variety of things. You know what I'm saying? Right now this station basically is a format of hip hop and R&B and stuff like that. So
cool. So tell me how you got hooked up with APR and Planet Perk, and you know what I mean? How you stumbled upon acquiring and giving.
I'm glad you asked.
Giving us a chance. You know what I mean? How did that come about? Thank you, by the way. Shout out.
No, man. I worked with Trey
over
at Lone Star College for a while, and
I wear so many hats.
He does, man. He does, man. And worked with him, and we became really, really cool. And then we always kept in touch, even though when he left and I left. And when he told me I had a podcast, and I was like, okay, cool. I said, man, that's actually what I need. I want more raw content to put on the station, because again, you get to the point where everybody's having an internet radio station nowadays. Everybody's, doing podcasts or whatever. But, as an internet radio station, it's always the same music that's in rotation. You know what I'm saying? It kind of becomes more redundant, like it does with, you tune into 937 and then 979, same music playing. So I said, okay, well, cool, I want something a little different. Even though I kind of had the same format, but I wanted to inject something a little bit more different. So when I started, introducing podcasts into to the segment, to the format of the station, and he told me that y'all had a podcast, I'm like, cool, you know what? I want that extra side of things. I want that rawness. Let me, you know what I'm saying? So I invited him on. And so, here y'all are, man. So,
thanks, I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. I'm glad y'all said yes. I was like, man, they gonna say no, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. It's crazy how things be, man. I said, talk about Trey all the time, man. He wears so many hats, but, man, we was in there just discussing that right before we did Planet Pert, and I'm like, man, it's crazy that, like, first off, like, how I even came into it, just, working out with Pert, and he was just like, hey, just come through. I'm like, all right, it's maybe a cool little one-time thing. Man, turned into something serious, and then it's like, I was telling Trey, I was like, man, it's crazy to be around somebody to where, like, I was just talking to him, I was like, hey, Trey, man, I think I have an idea. Trey didn't, like, it went from, I thought of doing something like this, to, we gonna film start next week.
Yeah.
And to, and to surround yourself around somebody, like, when they hear your idea, will not let you
not let it die.
No, we're gonna do it. Regardless. And it's like, hey, here we go, episode 3. And it's like, before I knew it. So,
and so the crazy thing,
shout out to Trey, first of all. But
the crazy thing is too, man, it's like, because
I know you went through it too when you started thinking about
I did, bro. Yeah. I did, man. And I made it sound so simple when I said I woke up and started in a radio station. And I actually tabled it so many times because, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to get. I don't know the equipment. I don't even know, how it even works. And so it probably took me about a good, solid month or two to say, okay, cool. Now I know what to do. Now I know how to stream it. Now I know, the processes. So let me get it up and running. Because I think when I woke up, I went to the courthouse. I got a DBA the next day. But then it was like, okay, now you got to sit down and think about and plan out everything, how it's going to work and how it's going to format. And there's the places that it actually opened doors up for me to go. It's kind of strange. So even with y'all starting the podcast, the dynamic of how everything can go is going to be out there. You know what I'm saying? Because I see how many people start podcasts, you know what I'm saying? And I remember when people were doing podcasts, I was like, nobody really cared. Like, nobody really said, you know what, I'm tuning into this, like, and
now you got the podcast awards.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? Yeah. And it was like one of the things I told Trey, I was like, shoot, you know what? Anything can be a podcast. Yeah. Like, if you take, all you gotta do is rip the audio, right? So, and it becomes a thing where it now just spawns to this big thing and this big genre now, to where it's something on its own, where you have companies making apps for you to do podcasts from anywhere. I remember when Blog Talk Radio came out, and it was like everybody was jumping onto it, right? But they had the weakest server out there. You can only stream it at like 32 kilobytes per second, and it had the worst bit rate ever. But it was so popular because everybody it get a chance for people to start their own platform. And so when the streaming side of things started changing, and then the internet radio stations started popping them left and right, it was like, okay, now you can mesh the two. Now, now you can have a podcast on the internet radio station. Now it's an actual show. So now people get on YouTube, and now YouTube has YouTube Live, and like I said, everything kind of just starts steamrolling to where now the people taking vlogs and everything and just turn them into podcasts now. So and it's a good thing because again now you can have a documented piece of work later on for the future that you can say, okay, cool, this is what I did. And now it's such a big platform and a big area of entertainment that it can take you anywhere, man. Like there are basically no rules to it. It's kind of like when Satellite Radio came out, right? Everybody was so used to clean, radio edits. You know what I'm saying? Satellite radio come out, it was like they broke the barrier. Oh, y'all are cursing. Oh, they saying the forbidden words you can't say on the air because the FCC is going to shut you down. So now with podcasts, it's really free form. It's really that, you know what I'm saying, that freedom of speech. I can talk about any and everything. I don't have to follow a designated format like you have to do with traditional radio. I can just talk about anything. I just press the record button and then just let it all speak. So that has become a big thing now, and it's an amazing concept, and it's an amazing thing now, so that people can actually. Do you know that there's a network on Android Auto for podcasts? I'm pretty sure everybody in here has an Android phone, but if you download the Android Auto app and you plug it into your car, and if your radio has Android Auto, there is a whole section that loads up podcasts all over the world that you can pick and choose from that gets updated every day. And that's how big the podcast format is, guys.
Is Power Hits on satellite too? Can they tune in from satellite or?
Nah, I ain't got the bread for that yet, bro. But the crazy thing is, the TuneIn app, which kind of houses a lot of the streaming formats now, is on the Android Auto, so you can stream Power Hits 281 on the TuneIn app via the Android Auto. So, like I said, there's ways now.
So kind of break it down, like going from internet radio, and then you say satellite, then the like I said, the 979s and the 937s that we see, like the broadcasted, like, and I mean, I know clearly there's cost and money involved, but like, what else typically is involved when you break down the three levels, Well,
of course, the traditional way was always, the FM antenna transmitter, right? You know what I'm saying? So you had to apply for the FCC to get a broadcasting license and to get a signal. Then you had to find a spot, and then you had to, of course, get the antenna, whether it's a digital antenna or just the standard antenna, but you still had to get the antenna. And of course, you're talking about 20,000, 30,000, sometimes in the higher to 100,000. Right. So that became the demand for people that wanted to have their own, broadcaster format, to where internet radio was introduced to the whole thing. So, because of course, you have people that were doing pirating radio, of course, because I used to be at one, and then we got shut down.
Explain that. What's pirating? So
pirating radio stations where you're basically hijacking a signal and you're broadcasting over it. So it can be it's an empty signal, but you got a digital transmitter and you're broadcasting on that transmitter. Now, the FCC regulates all of that and listens to all of that. So you get a couple of warnings, you get their letter in the mail, but then after you ignore it, then they'll send the people to your front door, shut you down, and confiscate all the equipment. So that happens. But when the introduction of the internet radio came about, they cut down on the pirating radio stations. Of course, there's still some out to this day, but the way that traditional or terrestrial radio is now going, internet radio and streaming formats is now becoming the new platform for broadcasting and entertainment.
So would you say it's like a way for, even the playing field a little bit, like, anybody, well, can anybody just start up a...
Basically can. And I think a lot of that shifted when Facebook introduced this live feature, because a lot of times, I don't know if people remember, Facebook Live was only introduced for celebrities and entertainers. And that when it initially got introduced. And then they opened a market or playing field for everybody that had a live feature. So with that gave another option of the playing field for people to say, you know what, cool, I can get on my Facebook page to talk about any and everything I want. And which essentially became a vlogging podcast, because they documented it, they recorded it, and it keeps it, and they archive it for you. So with that kind of opened up the floodgates of hell to say, okay, well, cool. How does anybody else get into this playing field? So that's when you start having the Instagram and everybody else start creating their own live functions and everything. So it does level the playing field to the where it gives the average person a voice with whatever topic they want to talk about.
Have you? Well, I know networking is definitely key to what you do and how you build your brand. Were there any key players that helped you, move along at the pace you moved along in? And because I know you had mentioned, a couple of celebrities that help you out, important people that help you out doing some of the shows. But I'm pretty sure there had to be some people that tried to help you on with the business, with just simply creating it. You know what I mean, with managing and.
Yeah. One of the main things, or the main people, was Crisco Kid.
Okay.
He's no longer in Houston. He's actually in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
But he was kind of one of the ones kind of pushed me along. He was giving me inside tips on what to do, what not to do from the terrestrial side of radio, because he's also he has multi formats on Sirius XM with Pitbull, a Globalization Radio, and I can't think of the other contract he's with, but he was one of the ones that kind of pinnacle of pushing me and kept giving me advice. But as far as the managing part of it, I was the only one by myself.
Sometimes the best way to go.
Yeah. But at the same time, it was one of those things where it was like nobody sees your vision like you do. So I'm going around screaming like I'm starting an internet radio station, and people are like me when I first started. I was like, well, what is that? Like, can I hear it in my car? And so it kind of gets discouraging. So you kind of find ways of how to network and like, cool, who do I talk to besides artists? But who do I talk to kind of give me that insight on how to make this work? Because at the time, you know what I'm saying, in 2009, there wasn't really a lot of internet radio stations out that were really popular and jumping, and that really had the ability to say, okay, cool, I can give you advice on what to do. So you kind of just have to learn the playing field and kind of, I made a lot of mistakes, but it helped along the way to get where I'm at now. So being at the time, I was a DJ, and that helped along the way as well, being able to network with other DJs and kind of just seeing how other people are doing it and kind of just taking from that and pulling from that and say, okay, let me mold this into something that I want it to be.
So, you kind of brought up, like I said, when you first come out with something, a lot of people were like, man, what you talking about? And, that kind of shows to how hard it is to come from nothing almost, right? Like come from no reputation, no type of backing. So I guess my question is like I think about that when anytime a radio station focuses on new artists and breakout, or people that are still trying to get somewhere, get what they were trying to get to. How do you balance that with like with it being profitable? You know what I mean? Because I know it kind of, I know it has to eat you up when it's like, okay, I can play this commercial stuff and I know I could be booming. I know I could be circulating. But, and shout out to you for even sticking for 11 years to your same format of, nah, I'm going to stick to, my roots and get these new artists out there. So, I mean, like it's really interesting to see you do it for so long, but kind of talk about like, the struggle.
The first 2 years, man, I actually know what I'm going to say the first 2 years. The first 3 years, man, I didn't make any money. I was paying all my licensing fees. You still got to pay royalty fees. You still got to pay broadcasting fees. Like, I was paying all that out of pocket. So that was running me about $500 a month. You know what I'm saying? So at the time, my wife, which at the time was my girlfriend, she looking at me like, I'm not understanding why you spending all this money on something that is not physically that I can touch or hold, or, you know what I'm saying, I can have a new handbag with that money you're spending every month. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how she looked at it. And then when she saw the dedication I was putting in behind it, and then she kind of said, okay, you know what, let me back off a little bit, and then she saw the late nights that I was DJing and trying to network and get the artists and whatnot, because people think that, oh, there's a plethora of artists out there that making music, and you'd be surprised how many don't either have their shit together, or they make the process even hard for you to even want to broadcast them, because they don't want to pay for spots, or they don't want to pay for advertisement, and they don't understand the format of, well, hey, look, I'm independent just like you are. You know what I'm saying? So we both trying to accomplish the same thing, but we both have to invest something in it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't want to invest in it.
Yeah.
So
they can't see that.
They can't see the, you know, yeah. So it was like, for the first 2 years, man, you know, and I go back, and some days I think about, like, man, $500 a month, 12 months, $6 grand, 3 years, that was basically 20 grand. Like,
on a dream.
On a dream. You know what I'm saying? And I think about, man, I could have been on this cruise. I could have went to the Dominican. I mean, you start thinking about that when you start getting close to rock bottom, and you ready to throw in the towel, like, man, I've wasted all this time. And then that pinnacle moment comes in to where that one person says, hey, I got you. And that's when I got my first advertising. And they said, you know what? We want to buy 2 months worth of advertising on the station. And I'm like, okay. In the back of my mind, I want to tell them, well, I'm just the internet. I don't have a lot of listeners at this moment, but I'm not trying to pass up on that check. You know what I'm saying? So when they cut the check, I was like, okay, I need to keep going. So I kept going. And which kind of spawned and led to other things.
So it took you 3 years to get your first check?
Yeah. Yeah. My first advertising. You know what I'm saying? And
man,
it was tough. I was in an apartment,
man.
You know what I'm saying? I think my rent at the time was like $1,100. So, you know, car note was like $400, and I'm working. Hell, I was at the college, you know, making $10.25 an hour, and I'm up here doing a lot of other side gigs and work. So it took that 3 years, you know, and now it's like, all right, cool. So what do you do now? So now you got the first check. What do you do now? How do you make it work? So now it becomes more or less not just Power Hits 281. Now I got to think about, okay, there's got to be a bigger end game, like we talked in the last one. There has to be a bigger end game. What do you want it to do? It can't be just streaming radio. How can you make it stretch across the board to reach all formats and all platforms? So that's where, fast forward, the second time I was about to throw in the towel. Okay? I was about to give it up again, right? And I got the phone call from Cheryl Underwood's management, because I had sent out an email just to see. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, how do I go about getting Cheryl Underwood to do a show? And how do I, you know what I'm saying, what's the process? Gives me a phone call. Hey, I'm gonna give you a shot. And I was like, does it cost money? And I said, because if it do, I don't have it. And I said, if it does, that's fine. I don't have it. I'll take the loss and stuff. I talked to the home manager on the phone for about an hour and a half. And he was like, I'm going to give you the show. I'm going to give you all the license to do it. He said, I'm going to fax everything over. Faxed over everything over. I got a signed letter from Cheryl Underwood.
You was ready to quit.
I was ready to quit. You know what I'm saying?
Just think if you would have quit.
Just think if I quit, right? Yeah. And my boy Crisco was like, he was telling me, bro, don't quit.
The Sit Down is brought to you by PowerHits281.com.
This is a always press record production.